Hey guys, this is Jason out here in Colorado. Today we're going to make some cordage out of spruce root. You know, up at the higher elevation here, we're probably about 9,500 feet, and up here we don't have a lot of different plant growth to make cordage out of. Up here there's no yucca. You know, yucca stops growing right about 7,000 feet. Lower out east you guys can use dogbane and a bunch of other stuff, and you know, grapevines and things like that for your cordage. At high elevation, all we really have to work with are pine trees to make cordage, and it's a bit more difficult to make cordage with these pine roots. What you got to do first is dig up the pine roots. You can use the smaller spruce saplings. You can just pull those guys right up out of the ground and you'll get small little tiny bits of root. I got some over here, let me go grab it real quick. So if you were to pull up a sapling, yank it out of the ground, you might get this little tiny root here, and it's got an outer red bark. You can see that, maybe you can see that outer red bark, and then there's an underlayer of white bark, and then there's actually the woody part of the root itself. With this small root, it's really hard to get the inner layer of bark is what you need really for making good cordage. So what you can do is just use the entire root, and it's not going to be the best cordage available, but you can use this to help you with building your shelter or something like that. But you're probably not going to be able to get a very good strong cord to make a bow drill, you know, your cordage for a bow drill out of something like this. But let me show you this tree, you know, a sapling. We've got walk up here and check it out real quick. So this sapling right here, this is probably about 6 feet tall. You could really muscle it and yank that thing out. Or these smaller ones that are only a few feet tall right here, you know, you could yank that guy out, and you could use those roots, the entire root, to make, you know, just simple cordage for tying up your shelter, your cross beams or your ridgepole or whatever you need it for. Or you can use those to bind snowshoes together if you need to make snowshoes, or whatever you need cordage for that doesn't need to be super strong. As we'll go back over here, I've got Isaiah. He's looking for some thicker root that's growing out of these larger pine trees. All right, so I got Isaiah digging. We're digging off of larger pine trees over here, and he's digging up some roots that are probably about thumb size, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit bigger. And you got to get yourself a digging tool. He's using a bone that we found, you know, from an old carcass. You can get yourself a pointy stick. I wouldn't recommend using your knife because obviously you don't want to dull your knife. I would just whittle yourself a pointy stick if you don't have a bone. Use a rock if you've got a axe maybe, you know, whatever you have to dig. You just dig those roots up, and you need to follow them up, and it's usually, you want the ones that are right under the surface, you know, so you don't have to dig too far. You know, depending on your terrain. Here in Colorado, where we have a very thin layer of good soil, and below that is most of it's pretty rocky, so it's kind of hard to dig this stuff up. So, you know, if you need cordage, you're going to expend a lot of calories getting this cordage. But you want to dig the roots up as long as you can get them before you snap them off, and then you just break them off. And like I said, you're going to have basically 3 different layers of woody material. You're going to have the outer thin bark it's really brittle, it's going to break apart in your hand, and then underneath it is a thin layer of white bark, and I got a little pile of it here from stuff that we were digging up earlier. But what we did, so you can see right here, this is the outer red layer of bark, and it just peels right off. But underneath this is that thin white layer, yellowish layer, and then underneath it would be the woody actual root of it. But you want that thin layer, and obviously you want nice long pieces of it. And you can boil the roots. That'll make this bark come off easier, but once you boil it, it kind of breaks it down a little bit. You'll need to let it dry out a little bit before you can start working it. But here he's got this root he just pulled out, this long root, and you can start with that. And you can't tell here on this piece, well, right here on the edge, here's the actual woody part. This is the hard wood of the tree. And then right here, I can peel off the bark. And you gotta be really gentle with this stuff when you're peeling it off, because it's really not as strong as yucca or dogweed or anything like that. So you can run your knife down it and you peel this off. And if you can't get it to come off, you boil the root. So now once you get your root dug up, and you know, you can kind of use this too, sorry, you can use this if you need some really thick vine-like cordage, but you can build your shelter without something like that. But what you're going for is this stuff right here, and you can make a bow drill cord out of this. And you do it the same way that you work yucca or anything else. You're gonna roll this until it kinks up, and you got to be a lot more gentle with this until it dries out. So now we got our bottom piece and our top piece. This is all the same cordage, and you take your top piece and you're going to twist it away from you twice, grab the bottom and roll back towards you. Twist this away from you twice or 3 or 4 times, just enough so it tightens up, and then roll the bottom back towards you. So we're going to twist this away, grab the bottom, roll it up. Twist this away, grab the bottom, roll it up. And we're just going to keep working on that. As you can see, I've already got a little bit of cordage here. And you're just going to keep going. This cordage is usually going to be a lot thicker than anything else, and it's got to be thicker because it's not as strong as some of the other plants that we're going to use. But we're just going to keep going. And this is just real quick, so this isn't going to be pretty. If I was, you know, trying to make something really good, I would, you know, shred this up and make sure that my size is consistent and just be more consistent with what I'm doing here. But I'm just going to keep going, and I just want to try to kick some out here real fast so I can show you how to splice 2 pieces together. This is really tiring on your hands. Just going to do some down here. Okay, so I've kind of reached sort of an end. You know, I don't want to run out. I want to leave a little bit extra here, you know, on both sides. And then I'm going to grab another long piece, one single piece that we're going to use for splicing this in. So we'll just use this one. This is not the best piece, but this is just what I got right here. So I'm going to take this piece here that's a solid piece, and then here's my cord. I got a top piece and a bottom piece, and I'm just going to take this and fold it or just lay it over. So now you see this is the short piece of the original cordage, and this is the new piece. It's just laid next to it, and then I've got it bent over and laid to this other side, and then I'm just going to continue on. Just like that. Just keep going. And that's it. And then once I start running out of cordage on, or the end of this, I'm just going to keep splicing another one. But you can see where I spliced that piece in. It's a little bit thicker there. But you're going to go until you have enough cordage. I mean, this is only a foot. You saw I kicked out a foot here in just a few minutes. The hardest part of this whole thing is digging up the roots and finding a good place to find these roots. But that's about it.
Alright, some words of advice when you're making this. This is what Jason started with. Notice how it's all nice and tight, and then as you go along you'll have these little pieces come out, and that's from splicing it. But it's real important for you to get it real tight, and then also having these quite a bit smaller and even to work with, because without, then it starts getting bigger and bigger, and then when you splice more pieces into it, it creates a giant knot right there, which actually makes it weak. It's like, and as you can see right here, one of my splice points, there's kind of a knot where the material's quite a bit thicker. It just broke on me when I put just a little bit of tension on it. It's real important to give it time to dry as well. because right out of the pot it actually is pretty slick still, pretty slimy. So yeah, there we go. It takes lots and lots of practice, but it's worth it when, you know, it's something worth mastering, especially if you're going to be spending a lot of time out here, and if you're ill prepared. So always bring paracord when you go to the North Woods.